Good evening, everybody, and a very warm welcome indeed to Lamborghini, the real race, Super Trofeo Esports, the third qualification race from Barcelona. My name is Paul Jeffrey, and as always, I am delighted to welcome my good friend, Mr. Chaz Draycott, into the commentary booth alongside me.
Hello, Paul. It looks like you've got a very different office this week, but yes, it's great to be back once again for another round of this amazing championship. And certainly there's a lot on the line, as we always know. A great circuit for us tonight, though, that's a massive challenge for these drivers. You know, there's no one key section of this circuit that is the same as the next. You know, it's not one of them tracks where it's got a lot of long straights or a lot of long sweeping fast corners. There's just a bit of everything here, so it's a nightmare to set a car up for it, but it's also a nightmare to string a lap together, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's completely different to Monza that we saw last week. Monza, temple of speed, incredibly fast, chicanes, lots of long straights. Here, a very technical circuit, renowned for its ability to produce a great circumstance to test cars on. Formula One used it for many a year. The drivers often say, if your car is good at Barcelona, your car will be good anywhere at all. And I think that's fascinating, Chaz, to me, to see the wealth of new drivers that we've got in this race and how they tackle that challenge compared to what's fair to say was a suboptimal set of racing circumstances last time out.
Yeah, it was a little bit scrappy last time, unfortunately, at Monza, but I think immediately after the first round, people knew how tough it was going to be, so they knew that there was going to be a lot on the line. So I think people started pushing instantly because they realised that they're not going to get many chances at this. And there's been a few drivers that have made both rounds so far, even all three as well, actually, as we have on our entry list for this evening. But there's certainly people in the championship that are entering for the first time tonight that have made it through the qualifiers that still want to prove a point. So every single round we get here, there's always going to be more people coming in, knocking down the door and suddenly bursting in with this utter confidence. And it can really throw the cat amongst the pigeons. So I'm excited to see how it goes.
Yeah, I think you mentioned it, Chaz, last week as well, that every time we do one of these qualifying races, we ratchet up the pressure even further for the drivers because they know they're running out of opportunities to secure the berth in the grand final on site in this very arena that looks fabulous behind me, to try and fight for a place in the Automobile Lamborghini Esports team. So you don't do it today, you've only got another go, and then the chance for 12 months is over and done with.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's just going to be really scary opportunity, really, when it gets down to that last round, how the driving standards are going to be. I mean, if it was crazy at Monza, it's going to be crazy at the very end as well. But I think it's going to be very exciting to watch for us that are trackside as well. Obviously, it's an interesting format for the series as well, which we've spoken about before. But for anybody that's new to it, we'll have a quick look back, shall we, and take a recap on how this series plays out, as narrated by Paul.
Open to drivers from Europe, APAC and NALA regions, the real race Super Trofeo Esports season is here. In Europe, an online qualification process across 4 European tracks will take place, with the top 24 drivers from each session progressing to qualification races. Additionally, directly opposite the Fanatec Arena, Lamborghini will be hosting dedicated AK Esports simulation rigs for members of the public to attempt to set a hot stint time. One direct progression to the regional final can be secured at Paul Ricard, with a further opportunity at Spa-Francorchamps and 2 places up for grabs at the Nürburgring. 3 further spots are reserved for a dedicated special Abu Dhabi event. In North America, hot stint qualification begins at Indianapolis on August 14th and August 17th at Suzuka for the APAC region. In both of these regions, the top 24 drivers from qualification will progress directly to their own respective online qualification and finals races. The regional final for European drivers, earned with a top 4 finish during the qualification races, will be held on site at the famous Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit at the Fanatec Arena. 2 races will be held on July the 30th, with 23 drivers fighting it out to take the overall championship victory, and with it, the opportunity to join the Automobile Lamborghini Esports team. So there we go. That's how to get involved. And of course, make sure that you register to be potentially involved in this championship. And qualification, Chaz, is ongoing as we speak for the final qualifying round at Spa-Francorchamps. And if I consult my wealth of notes that I have on the table, that will close in just a few days' time. In fact, it'll close at 10 CEST on the 3rd of July. So get into ACC. Get your time set and see if you can be one of those 24 that join us at Spa-Francorchamps for the final throw of the dice in this incredible series.
Yeah, it's not like I just had to write that down as well. I was explaining before the broadcast, my little one seems to have run off with the piece of paper that had all my notes on it earlier. So unfortunately, I'm noteless for the minute, but I've still got the entry list, so we're fine. But yeah, it's just, again, about that pressure ramping up as time goes on. But because the qualifying is going on all of the time, people can enter whenever they want, because it's a full week of qualifying. You can just jump in when it suits you. And I think that, again, coming back to the accessibility of sim racing and the ability to do that is just, it's the best way to do it in my eyes. You don't have a set qualifying session within an hour that everyone has to make, because if you can't make that, then it's not giving an equal opportunity to everybody. So the fact that there's umpteen people that could go for it all of the time, all week, and just get better and better with their lap times. That's why we have such a high standard in this series, because they've got so many chances to get it right. But when it comes to the races itself, obviously, that's when the real funnel and the bottleneck of it all comes about, because, well, it's going to be a scary one, I think, as we get into those last rounds, like I've said. We're going to take a quick look back now, though, at what happened last time at Monza, and to be honest, Paul, I think we were left a little bit flabbergasted by the end of the race meeting, to be fair. It was certainly a great one for the 4 that got through, but I think everybody else behind in the pack, it wasn't ideal, was it?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We'll have a look at those highlights now. But as you say, the front of the field, the top 4, were peerless over the course of this race. And we saw more than a fair share of drama. Monza brings that drama up, doesn't it, Chaz? You can see already we've got a little bit of side-by-side action in the opening corners, but it wasn't long before everything went very wrong for those further down the running order.
Yeah, there was contact here, contact there. I mean, look at some of the battling here. These guys 2x2 down towards Ascari. It was great to watch, but at the same time, because we'd seen drivers pushing so hard in the early stages, we were almost scared to see them go side by side into corners with each other. The real standout there was, of course, the man that won the race, Marco Lomi, in the end, who just disappeared off over the horizon. I mean, it wasn't to say we weren't entertained, but at the same time, it was just... You could see that pressure, and it wasn't a word that I wanted to use, but I used the word desperation at the time, and it felt a little bit like that at certain times. So hopefully, I think a lot of the drivers we're going to have tonight would have been either involved in that or would have seen that, and may hopefully dial it back for this evening, because this circuit, I mean, you can't be impatient like that, can you?
Yeah, exactly. And we spoke a little bit when we were off air together about our sort of dissecting of the race. We see a good, one of the few good, clean overtakes. It's a learning experience for these drivers. The Real Race Super Trofeo Esports series is open to anybody in Europe for this particular portion that we're dealing with, and they can qualify. So you've got drivers that have been around for a while, and we'll see the entry list in a moment, and you'll see some of those big names. And then you've got people that are stepping onto this so-called stage for the first time. So even if you had a nightmare, got involved in silly incidents or whatever may have happened, you take that away, don't you? You learn from it, you put it in your virtual tool set of skills that you can then deploy next time you come racing. And we're looking at this. 8 drivers have come back from Monza. 6 drivers have returned from Paul Ricard, and 11 drivers are brand new into the series for this race. Those drivers have all got a little bit more knowledge, a little bit more experience than they had last time out. And the big thing for me as a broadcaster and for you good folks at home is who's learned from that one and who's used that to uplift their game.
Yeah, we're going to be able to see that immediately in this race, I think, because like I've said, there's going to be a lot of patience needed from the drivers here. Here are the prizes on offer, of course, and as a viewer of these live streams, as the course of this event and this series goes on, you will see QR codes and you'll get registration links in the chat as well. And simply just for watching, you can register and win yourself either a €300 gift card to be used at the Lamborghini online store, a €150 gift card, and for every time you enter, or register at least per event, then you will basically get put into a draw at the end of the whole competition, which is the final prize, and it is a VIP experience day on behalf of Lamborghini at the Lamborghini factory and museum. So register now. There's nothing to lose if you're a viewer of the live stream. To be honest, if I wasn't working on it, I'd probably be registered already, to be fair, from the first one. Get that QR code sorted out. And look out for any links in chat if you're not using the QR codes as well. Because like I say, you can literally win prizes for just watching me and Paul shout at virtual race cars. How good an evening is that?
Yeah, exactly. And there's absolutely nothing to lose. There's no cost associated with it. And Chaz and I periodically will just refer to this one during the broadcast just to remind you, or in case you've missed the pre-show and you're not here for our face, but here for the virtual race cars. So yeah, do get involved. It's well worth your time. And now I think, Chaz, speaking of time, we're cracking on a little bit. We're about to go on to racing. Probably worth having a quick look at the entry list, at some of the drivers that will be taking part today. And if we look at this entry list, anybody seasoned in the world of esports will recognise names like Marcin Sviderek, Dario Amulo, Andrea Miato, all big names that have been in the world of ACC, have been in mono-brand championships, and have been at the absolute forefront of different esport racing categories. Their names, Chaz, to watch out for. We've also got a whole bunch of drivers that are pretty much brand new into this one, or certainly when it comes to this level of competition, and they're going to be fascinating to see how they get on.
Yeah, definitely. Like we've said, there's a big mix of them here that will be coming back from Monza. There'll be drivers that have just watched the first 2 rounds of the championship, but even drivers like Josh Hislop making a return as well. Luigi Pacazocco, Michael Romagnoli, we saw him at Paul Ricard, I believe. Luca LaMonaco as well, another one to add back to our list. And it's great to see that despite the fact that they're coming back and forth and there's new drivers in there, there's never, other than I'd say, the only real standout for me in terms of pace setting has been Marco Lomi, because he's qualified on pole for both events so far. Now he's qualified, he's not racing again. That's one key thing to note, by the way. Anyone that's new to this that doesn't quite get how the format works in terms of people going through, once drivers have qualified, obviously they don't need to race again. So what it means is that when we get a big list of drivers and the top 4 qualify, they go up and everybody else shifts up a position, and that gives everyone else even more of a chance then for the final couple of races. So not only does the pressure mount, Paul, but also the chances of people going through, if they were just outside of that top 4, get even greater. So there's so many moving parts and elements to this.
Yeah, there are, and you've got to bring your A game. That's the thing. And I think I want to go back to what you just said a moment there about the top 4 going through. That's the top 4 race finishers, of course. But we're running out of racers. So that pressure's ramping. That desperation that you mentioned earlier is increasing massively. And if you're in 5th, 6th, 7th position, you've got to get your skates on. You've got to clear those cars, because if you're not in this top 4, you've only got Spa-Francorchamps, assuming that you can qualify for Spa-Francorchamps, because past success is absolutely no guarantee of future. It's so difficult for these drivers, and they are racing for the opportunity not only to come on site and meet us 2 silly billies and the commentary box, but to possibly become a professional works esport driver for Lamborghini, which is, not to put too fine a point on it, life-changing.
It is, absolutely is, yeah. It's not like there's just a couple of €100 at the end of this, you know. It's a proper huge prize with a lot of honour behind it, you know, and a lot of pride that goes into being a part of such a, not even just a team, but a company as well, you know, as part of the legacy that Lamborghini already has with it, and the future of it too. So yeah, it's a fantastic prize, and it is lovely to see. But yeah, it's just one of those elements, I suppose, now where people need to just keep their wits about them now. We've got less and less rounds each time. Drivers still coming in and, like I said before, knocking the door down and making their first appearances. And then you've got the drivers that have been, 5th and 6th in races before. And it doesn't matter whether it's 1,000th of a second behind 4th or 10 seconds, you're still behind 4th.
Right, let's take a look at this starting grid. In pole position, rocking car number 3 that you see to the left-hand side of your screen is Andrea Miato. He was the fastest in quali, just ahead of a late improvement from Michael Romagnoli that will join him on the front row of the grid. Dario Amulo, a driver that we've seen much of so far in the Real Race Super Trofeo Esports Series, starts 3rd, just ahead of Polish superstar Marcin Swiderek. 4th position, the back of the 2nd row of the grid. A new name for us in this series is Matteo Vercelli in 5th position, and he's ahead of another new driver, Guglielmo Filippi. He'll be lining up in 5th and 6th place. In 7th position, Nikodem Sobchak Sobchak in 7th, just ahead of Magnani in 8th position. Pirella will line up in 9th. He's in car number 11, and alongside him is David Kolachai, that we've seen much of this season, and he'll be hoping, 3rd time of asking, to be able to convert that into a qualifying position.
Yeah, he'll be hoping for a much cleaner race this time round. The next car is Nicolo Soro in car 10, P11. Then it's Jacopo Grillo alongside him in car 9, the green machine on the right of your shot there. Marco Schade is next up in car 20. These numbers, by the way, where they finished in the qualifiers. So you might see some of the bigger numbers higher up, which shows that they're basically above the pace they showed in qualifying. Next is Rosario Stimoli in 14th place, another returnee from the Monza round of the championship. Then we have Leonardo Grigis in that gorgeous green machine on the left-hand side, alongside car number 23, Danilo Magnani. Then it's Matteo Sinotti in the next number 16 machine, the dark red car on the left. And then we have the blue and orange machine on the right, which is car 22, Matteo Topa. He's in 18th place. 19th is Luigi Pacazocco, car number 17 on the left. And then the brown machine on the right, Luca Lo Monaco. He rounds out your top 20. Then we have Milan de Klippel in 21st place in car 12, I should say. And then the military grey machine of Gianluca Bernardini. Love the look of that car. Hopefully it'll be further up the grid a little bit later on. Then we have Josh Hislop in car 14 next up. And a space on the grid before we then get to car number 13 at the back, unlucky for some, Munir Kabir. And unfortunately a slot there at the back of the grid, Paul, but still a very packed grid once again. 23 cars this time round, and I'm really looking forward to getting this one underway in these gorgeous Lamborghini Super Trofeo Evo 2 cars, the Huracan of course, with over 600 horsepower in it. Well, the racket they make is immense, isn't it, as well?
Yeah, they sound absolutely sensational. They go absolutely sensational as well, especially on this Circuit de Barcelona, Catalonia, and qualifying, as is always the case in these things, was a very, very tight affair. You made a good point, Chaz, that I want to illustrate again for our audience at home. The car numbers are indeed the places they finished in the hot lap competition. Romagnoli, car number 18, lines up second on the grid. Now that's interesting. That suggests to me, unless Romagnoli's just done what he needed to do to get through, that his single lap pace is greater than his race pace because, of course, to qualify, you have to do a hot stint. You have to do multiple laps within a time, and then the session, the 22-minute session or whatever it ends up being, is what sets your place. So Romagnoli is going to be one to keep an eye out to see if he can maintain the pace to stay in that top four. Marcin Swiderek was a driver that was very competitive in a championship that I was part of last season, another mono brand series, managed to get to the on-site grand final and just missed out on the ultimate prize. So Swiderek is a driver, for my money, I would very much expect to move forward from fourth as this race progresses.
Yeah, absolutely. There are people that seem out of sync in terms of their car numbers. Nikodem Sobchik as well in 7th place, car 21. Marco Shade in car 20, he's in 13th, only a few places ahead. But you raise a good point as well yourself there, actually, Paul, regarding the...
Don't sound so surprised.
I'm just surprised that we've both done it within about a minute of each other, to be fair. But it's the fact that it isn't just one hot lap. It's not like you can do 100 laps and then one of them is good, and then that's what gets you through. It's the fact that you have to have consistent pace. And obviously, to become part of a team like Lamborghini, you need to be able to have that consistent pace, because it's all well and good, like I say, being rapid over one lap. But if you can't maintain that, then what's the point? You know, because that's a false representation of what you can do, really, in the long run. You could have one lap that's a second quicker than 19 of the poor ones, you know? So, yeah, I think it's a great format to be able to get through to something like this. And then, obviously, in the race, you don't just deal with the pace over a run, but the pace when other drivers are around you as well to affect that.
Yeah, absolutely. Racing, as we well know, and everybody watching at home, I'm sure, well knows, is far more than just single lap. It's all about racing intelligence. It's the entire package that comes together. And if you're representing someone like the Automobili Lamborghini Esports team, they want as polished of a diamond as possible. A driver that can insert themselves into the into the team, work well with their teammates, and deliver out on the racetrack, and that's exactly what we're trying to achieve here today. Quick note for everybody at home: scan to win. That's that QR code that Chaz mentioned earlier. Get it scanned, get registered, doesn't cost you a dime, and you may win a 300 or a 150 euro voucher to spend at a Lamborghini shop, so well worth doing.
Yeah, definitely. At the end of the day, nothing to lose. You can win a prize. Why not? It's as simple as that, really. I mean, regardless of what the prize is, if you can win something where you don't have to lose anything and you don't have to put much in, really, other than a few moments of your time and a couple of clicks, why not? Absolutely, why not? So here is our beautiful field then making their way down towards what will be turn 10 on this circuit. Can't remember if we're running the final chicane or not during this layout, Paul. I think we're running without from what the track map was looking like earlier on. And I keep my fingers crossed because I know, like many, really do not enjoy that chicane, to be honest with you. It's difficult to drive, it's ugly to look at. It just seems randomly placed. I don't know what you think of that bit.
I agree. It's a very clumsy Mickey Mouse chicane in a big, powerful car like this one. That's not softly sprung, but compared to a GT3, for example, slightly softly sprung. It's just awkward to get the car. It breaks the flow of the final sector of the lap up as well. But saying that one, it's an overtaking opportunity, which is never a bad thing.
Absolutely not. So 23 cars ready to go. Looks like we might have 24 actually. The timing screen has suddenly bumped back up to 24. Beautiful, bright and colourful Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo 2s. Let's get round 3 underway, Paul.
Yep, here we go then. Qualification for the Lamborghini, the real race Super Trofeo Esports here at the circuit de Barcelona, Catalonia. Is go, the lights have gone green, and 23 Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo 2 cars charge down to the first corner in what will be a 60-minute spectacular as Dario Amulo is the man to the inside line. Can he get the deal done? Through the first corner, yes he can. Around the outside goes Marcin Sviderek, but he runs out of racing room and everybody's squabbling for the same bit of track, and this is the dangerous part of the race, Jazz.
It really is. There's so many corners here where it can check up and you have to be ready for it as a driver. You can't just pile in and think, oh, opportunity for an overtake here, methinks. You've got to be on your toes here. Make sure that everybody around you is behaving themselves as well and react accordingly to what they're doing. Fantastic first couple of corners, though, it has to be said. Massive respect for all the drivers here as we look at Andrea Miato. He's in car 3, P3. There's Nicolo Soro. The car just running wide and dropping a couple of places further down. One of the few magenta machines that are right in the middle of the pack. Nicolo Soro is right behind Pirella there, I think it is, in car number 11. And look at that 2x2 there as they go through turns 7 and 8. A little bit of contact, rubbing door handles. Then again, the door handles are well concealed on these Huracans, so maybe not. Rubbing wing mirrors a bit more apt. Oh, somebody goes spitting off the circuit through the polystyrene boards. There's a car around in the background. I think it's Matteo Topa. It is. It's car 22. It's one of the very few that I remember for its beautiful colour earlier on, and he's joined by car 19, Luca Monaco.
Yeah, disappointing opening lap for those two drivers. They're both back on the racetrack, but they will have damage. But a great start for Michael Romagnoli from second on the grid. Managed to get the jump down into T1. 3 or 4 cars were all squabbling for the same bit of tarmac. Marcin Sviderek was one of those drivers, but he has lost out. He's down in 6th position. There you see the silver car just in the background. We're looking at Philippi at this moment in time, but Sviderek under some pressure further down the running order as well. So that just goes to show, doesn't it? You've got to be so insightful in when you make your move. You can't take chances in this series, because before you know it, Sviderek's gone from hero, not quite to zero, but he's certainly got his work cut out for him now.
Yeah, definitely. You have to think about the compromise when you're going to try and make an overtaking manoeuvre. Will the person behind be able to gain anything from it and get past you if you get it wrong? It's like whenever you see a driver that's in the thick of it with a car right in front of them and right behind them. You never want to be there, because if you try and overtake your manoeuvre and it doesn't work out, you're going to feel very, very upset with the fact that they can just pile on through with a lot of ease. There was a car just going off at the first couple of corners a moment ago, one of the dark purple machines, I think, just behind the grey machine at the back of this pack there. So we've got car number 13 on our screens right now, which is Munir Kabir. And then it was a couple of cars back from that. I think it might have been Bernardini actually that went off.
And that's a shame for Bernardini, of course. He started right towards the back of the field, got a decent start, passed a couple of cars courtesy of the dramas that we saw a few corners ago, but now he's got it all to do again, does the number 24. We're looking at Lorenzo Magnani at this moment in time, car number 4, in 7th position. That is Marcin Sviderek that we see just ahead of us. So this is good for Magnani. If he follows the silver car just for a few corners, tries to understand where the pace differential between the two of them is, he'll be hoping that Sviderek can drag him up the field alongside him. But Magnani, not a comfortable position to be in, because there is the magenta machine of Pirella just behind, trying to find a way past. But so far, Chaz, in comparison to last time around, it's been a relatively cautious opening few laps as everybody tries to find the balance of where they need to be.
Yeah, I think the mental games here are going to be the fact that people know that the pressure's mounting round after round. They've got less chances to do it, but they saw how easily it went to pot last time at Monza, and they're going to know that and make sure that they are on their tiptoes to be just so careful around every corner and every overtaking manoeuvre they go for. They're going to really drill it into their own heads that they have to be sure, they have to be very confident that it's going to work and they're not going to lose out because of it. We see here Andrea Miato all over the back of Yamulo at the moment, and as this carries on, if he starts to make moves here, the two of them are going to lose Romagnoli and make life a lot easier for car 18 at the front of the pack. But at the same time, he doesn't need to make the moves really, Paul, because while he is in third position, and sure, you'd want to get up into second, he doesn't really gain anything by doing that, does he, to be honest, because he's still going to qualify whether he's third or second. I just noticed as well Nicolas Soro has got a penalty of 10 seconds. It was 5 a moment ago, now it's 10.
Yeah, Soro's one of the drivers that we saw in a little bit of drama a couple of laps ago with somebody exiting stage left. So hopefully we find out exactly what happened to Nicolas Soro down in 10th position. But just going back to Andrea Miato again for a moment, he's going to be absolutely fuming from pole position down into third place. And he'll be comfortable and confident that he's got the pace to lead this race. But how do you balance that risk, Chaz? What do you do about this one? Do you hold on to third, or do you go for the charge and see if you can try and regain those positions that have been lost?
It's a difficult one, isn't it? I think the main thing is to just keep your head and know and remember that it's a long race, because it doesn't have to be done within a couple of laps. You can take a bit of time to assess the pace of the drivers around you, how they're going about their race, whether it looks like they're pushing too hard, whether it looks like they're being too conservative. And if they're being the latter, if they're being conservative, you can try and pounce and try and make a move on them. As Vercelli now gets overtaken down the inside by Magnani, just about slides across the front of that Huracan's very low, pointy nose. And Magnani goes up into 8th position on his way to get back towards the front. Here's David Kolocsi, the Hungarian. He was really in the thick of it last time round at Monza, and it looks like he's in there as well this time round, with Pakazoko in front of him and Kabir behind. Kabir starting at the back of the grid, but having a decent run up so far inside the top 20 now, and hoping to continue that pace forward. 13's unlucky for some, clearly not for him tonight.
Yeah, good little squabble going on further down the pack. Kolocsi has been good value for money for everybody watching at home. Not quite managed to bring home the bacon in terms of results, but absolutely been, as you say, in the thick of more than his fair share of dramas. And again, good experience for David Kolocsi, good opportunity to learn, to take on board everything. As let's look now at the front of the field, Dario Amulo has decided now's the time to start to close onto the back of Michael Romagnoli. He's not letting the Italian run away from this, and in fact he's starting to drop Andrea Miato just a couple of tenths of a second further back. So this is a spicy little fight at the front of the field, because these three at the moment, Chaz, have a relatively comfortable 2.8 seconds from Nikodem Sobchak behind. So if you're going to go for it, this is the time that you do it while you've got that safety net, so to speak.
Yeah, that's the thing. You need to try and get it done in as clean a way as possible, though. And I guess it's a balance of whether you rock the boat or not. I think right now, if we see Yamulo go for one move and it doesn't work, he then needs to, like that, he needs to consign himself to the fact that, right, he's not going to let me have this easy, he's not going to work with me on this, maybe I just sit behind for a little bit, use the slipstream even just down some of the straight sections of the circuit to just stick with him. You know, it's like, I always call it a reverse Newton's cradle right now, what Yamulo has done regarding Miato, who's actually done the fastest lap of the race. Normally with a Newton's cradle, it's the balls on the outside of the pack in the middle that move, as there you go, contact between Yamulo and Romagnoli, just gets into the back of him slightly. He doesn't need to do it. He might be pushing a bit harder than he needs to. But that's just the moment that he needs to be so cautious about, because that could spoil both of their races, because at the end of the day, if he turns Romagnoli and takes him out of the competition, then he'll end up with a penalty. But just back to my point, reverse Newton's cradle, it's normally the balls on the outside that move around the pack in the middle. But in this case, Yamulo is the one that's moving between the other two, either side of him, isn't he? He's sort of rattling around in the middle. Yeah,
absolutely. And that kind of incident that we just saw then, the light contact between the two race leaders, that will have opened the eyes of both drivers as to the danger that's potentially comes with this little squabble. Further down, we're looking at Filippi in 5th position, very much in the middle of the pack. And what's interesting here, the car in front of Filippi That is kart number 21, Nikodem Stopček. He's the last man that so far has the qualification places. So this is a big opportunity for Philippi, car number 7, in 5th place on track. He's the first of the drivers currently that will not be progressing. This is the worst position you could wish to finish in this race. If he ends up in 5th, so close yet so far, but he's got Marcin Swiderek. Remember, Swiderek was going for the race lead at lap 1. He's now down in 6th position, and Pirella as well, very firmly in that conversation. Incident between cars 8 and 6 on lap 1, a 5-second penalty to car number 8. That is Vercelli in 9th place for causing a collision.
That's a real shame for Vercelli. He was actually quite excited in the opening moments, but clearly a little bit too exciting for race control, unfortunately. But yeah, right now, these are the drivers that are on the cusp. These are the ones that are under the most pressure in this race, I'd say, because they are so close, but yet so far. As Kolocaj now involved in this fight with the number 17 machine of Pakazako. I think Pakazako went off at the first couple of corners, and he's just come back on now behind these pair, as there's nearly contact behind, and that behind them going through is Kabir as well in car 13. Munir Kabir, the Italian driver. The driver in front, of course, is Kolocaj with the Hungarian flag. It's not just the Italian flag that's fallen over. But right now, Kolocaj needs to get away from this, because if they're going to start fighting behind him, he can get a bit of clear air, run up to the back of the car in front, which is Luigi Pakazako. Actually, sorry, it's not Pakazako. My apologies. My timing screen didn't update for a moment there. But it's actually Rosario Stimoli in car number 5. But again, just comparing the numbers of the cars in their seeding, let's say, to where they are on circuit, we've got an interesting mix, haven't we, really? Look at Yamulo. He's getting so close.
Yeah, Dario Amulo very firmly has decided this is a race he wants to win. Even though these two are squabbling, Andrea Miato is dropping ever further back. So Miato at this moment in time either doesn't have the pace to stay with them, or doesn't have the inclination to be particularly close to these two drivers at this stage. And Michael Romagnoli, out of everybody in this field, is the man under the most pressure, leading the race, punching the hole through the air, the first on the track to experience all the corners, and now the man on the defensive into turn 1. Amulo to the outside, as close as you can get without contact, as Dario Amulo to the outside runs out of racetrack, has to go over the sleeping policeman. Good defensive from Michael Romagnoli there, and now Amulo immediately goes for an attacking stance into a defensive one, as Andrea Miato would be wishing he was just a few tenths further up the road, then he could get stuck into this conversation as well. But if you ever wanted someone to lay a marker down of "I ain't gonna roll over, sunshine," then Michael Romagnoli has laid that marker down there and then.
He absolutely did, yeah. He stuck it to the inside line. Didn't really run Yamulo out of room, to be honest. I think Yamulo just went in a little bit too hot, couldn't quite stick it to the corner. But he made the right decision there. He actually put himself in a bit of a compromised position in order to not take out Romagnoli, just in case he was running wide as well. So really good stuff and quick thinking. There's been an incident between cars 12 and 19, which was all the way back on lap 1. We saw at least one of those cars around, and it's a drive-through to car number 12 for causing that collision, and that's Milan de Klippel. And well, he certainly clipped one of his competitors, it seems, and that's what caused said incident. He's now down in 24th place. We look here at Marcin Swiderek. Bloke nearly broke my wrist when he shook my hand in Nice last year, and it's hardly surprising with arms like that. It's no wonder actually they're like that, to be fair, Paul, with them so stretched out in front of him. This is another thing that we actually spoke about in the first round of the series, is that drivers all have such different seating positions and different arrangements with how they go racing. Marcin has the wheel very far away from him and has his arms stretched out. Others go for a bit of a NASCAR-esque approach, don't they, where they sit really close to the wheel and it's all just gentle, tiny inputs in their wrists.
Yeah, it's fascinating how you get comfortable in your own little scenario, and that's also actually a point, probably one to say for future, but I'm going to use it anyway. These drivers are racing from home in these qualification races. When we get to the grand final, they'll be on site in different equipment, as Swiderek just having a little sniff to the rear of Philippi's car, but not quite enough room. And that's going to be another interesting factor, the comfort of being at home in a familiar surrounding, familiar equipment, familiar situation, to moving into an arena type environment. And that kind of also explains why, as you say, the seeded drivers, the numbers that we've got in the comfort of a hot lap competition is very different from the white hot heat of battle, where you know you've got qualified and one chance only. And we're seeing some of those drivers taking that pressure and using it to their advantage, Michael Romagnoli being a great example, and other drivers such as Stimoli, who was 5th in hot lap, all the way down in 16th, not quite flourishing as they would have liked to, I think, at this stage.
Yeah, definitely. It certainly shows that there's two sides to the coin, doesn't it? And obviously different styles and different approaches that drivers have to take, not just physically in how they push the car and how they push their equipment, but just mentally as well, in knowing how long these races are. The comfort, like you say, that's absolutely the word. It's the comfort of doing these qualifying sessions, and even being at home in terms of the comfort as well. You're in an environment that's your usual environment, let's say. It's your own equipment, it's your own rig. To be able to then have to perform like that in an environment where you're in someone else's rig, different equipment, and you've also got your other drivers physically there around you and an audience at a huge event, it's going to be amazing to see how the drivers cope. I think it's going to really open our eyes to a lot of it, but this is what Lamborghini need to do, and it's a great platform to be able to do this, I think, because it gives us exciting racing with some of the finest drivers that you'll find in Europe, in some amazing looking race cars, on an amazing simulator, but it's all in it's all for a fantastic cause, for the fact that they get to race for Lamborghini as a team at the end of it all, and it's a savage way of sending them through, almost like a boot camp. But here we go, there's a change for the lead actually there, Paul. Romagnoli now behind Yamulo. He's finally got it done in the yellow car. He might have dazzled him out of the way.
So that one has been coming for a while. Romagnoli decides to get back on the inside. Early doors, but doesn't have enough room. That opens the door for Andrea Miato. Miato has been planning this one since he lost that race lead. Drop back from these two, let them play whatever games they want to play, and then sail through and pick up the pieces. And now Miato is very much up on his tiptoes. He senses blood in the water. There is an opportunity. Dario Amulo is the race leader, but for how long can he hold on to that race lead? Andrea Miato now in second position, and Michael Romagnoli, blinking you miss it, from first down to third.
Yeah, it's that quick though, isn't it? This is what I was on about before with the compromise. If you try and make a move and it doesn't go well and you've got a car right behind you, no chance. Absolutely no chance. You cannot come back from something like that, and it will really get in your head as well, because he'll be kicking himself for that. You can't drive angry from this point forward in the race. That's one thing you need to be able to dial back, because as you know, we all say that while the racing isn't in the physical real cars themselves, the emotions and the mental attitude that goes into it is still very real. Here's the move down the start-finish straight, plenty of slipstreaming. Romagnoli saw that one coming, almost a carbon copy of earlier, just not quite as close. And look, Yamulo was actually slower into the first corner there, but beautiful bit of driving. Oh, there was a bit of contact on the exit, but I don't think there was too much either of them could have done about that. Romagnoli maybe a bit less on the lock and just conceded that one, but still very, very entertaining. What a fantastic battle to watch there, Paul. Lovely stuff.
Yeah, classic Barcelona overtake there. Great driving from Dario Amulo. Tried it first time around, didn't work. Learnt the lesson, put that into play second time round, and job was done. Now this is going to be a big test for Romagnoli, a big test of his character, of his mental resilience. He's had a little bit of contact, that would have annoyed him. He's lost the position, would have annoyed him even more. Andrea Miato has come in and taken second position away. That will infuriate Marcin Swiderek. Now, can he keep his head? Can he get back in to the rhythm that he needs to do? And can he rejoin what is currently a two-way battle for our race lead? Andrea Miato now has decided to take an aggression pill and start to get very firmly onto the bike of Dario Amulo. So it worked well in the opening stint. Stay out of trouble, see what the boys ahead do, take advantage when advantage presents itself. Now Andrea Miato has to do the work himself. He has to force the issue. Is Amulo as good at defending as he was at attacking previously? Can Andrea Miato convert the pace we know he's shown so far tonight into an overtake? And 42 minutes and absolutely no pit stops in the way either, to answer that question, which is just the way we like it.
Absolutely, yeah. There's no pit stops in the way to shake up the order or add an extra element into it. This is just, how fast are you over an hour? But how good are you at dealing with the fatigue that comes into this as well? Because, again, coming back to my point I was making a moment ago, that, you know, while they may not be in the real cars, dealing with the real G-forces, a lot of what's going on around them is still real. You're doing the same inputs. There's still a lot of force goes into it. There's a lot of mental thought goes into how you apply those inputs. And to be fair, trying to figure out how the car is behaving, probably a little bit more difficult sometimes in the sim, because you don't have the feeling through your backside. Yes. You have to rely on audio and visual cues of what the car is doing. You learn it from what the sim is telling you. And we often find that when drivers go from the sim to the real thing, they're actually better in the real car because they can feel more of what it's doing and how it's behaving. But right now, Miato just needs to stick behind Yamulo and keep this pressure on. He's doing a very good job of it at this moment in time, but it's just how that fatigue sets in, like I say, Paul, because it's still very mentally taxing, and an hour of racing at this sort of level, as hard as you can for a competition like this, I mean, I don't envy them.
No, not at all. And of course, the track is changing. It's a dynamic circuit. The grip is changing. The balance of the car as the fuel wears down and the tyres wear down as well, all have an impact. And it's who can respond to that one, who's prepared for the subtle changes and who can react best to them over the course of the stint. 40 minutes and 57 seconds left on the clock. Matteo Sonotti that we're looking at now, down in 15th position. He has got Marco Sciarra just ahead, and Marco, a driver new to the world of the real race Lamborghini Super Trofeo Esports. Great to have him with him. And then Stamole still keeping a watching breeze behind. In fact, Stamole is the man. Does he? Yes, he does. And that one was the slowest and laziest overtake you will ever see. But he gets the deal done very nicely. And Matteo Sonotti loses one position and will look back on this one, I think, and think, how did I leave that door open for so long?
He might be feeling a bit snotty about it as well. There you go, he sends it back down the inside. Very snotty indeed, actually, from Sonotti. And now look, Stimoli's all over the curve, he's all over the place, and Kabir says, thanks very much, mate, I'll take that one. And again, opportunism shining through here, Paul, but I think more than anything, that wasn't the smartest of moves, actually, by Matteo Sonotti, if I'm honest with you. It sounds harsh, but it's compromised the pair of them, lost them both a lot of time. And even though it's really given Kabir a fantastic reason to smile, it's meant that someone's lost a place where they really didn't need to out of those pair. He could have waited for the start-finish straight, maybe slipstreamed. Vercelli decides that he wants to race at Valencia, not Catalunya. Goes very, very wide at turn 3. But now he's got Leonardo Grigis behind him. And again, we've just got so many battles all over the circuit, haven't we, Paul? We've got these sort of quartets and groups. They're all forming their own little cliques around the track. And these gorgeous, bright and colourful little squads. And it just looks great and sounds great. But they're all battling like this. And they're just not near a qualifying position yet. It must be quite heart-wrenching at this point to be that far down.
I think it would be, probably, with the opportunity to reflect at the end of the race. But at the moment, they know they've got a motor race in front of them. They know they've got rivals they've got to beat.
Yeah.
And in this world, in this industry of esports and sim racing that's ever growing, and certainly with another qualifying race still to go potentially for some of these drivers, anytime you can one-up your rival is an opportunity to improve, as we're looking now at Grigis getting a little bit rat-a-tat-tat in his number 15 Lamborghini, but just about holds on to that one. Nicola Sorro, with 10 seconds to be added to his time, is interested in a top 10 on track, even if that won't convert to a top 10 come the checkered flag. But as I was saying, every time you go racing, you try to beat as many people as you can, because you never know when your paths will cross again when you're fighting for meatier positions.
Yeah, it's all about having that mental game, isn't it? And knowing that you can beat a driver on track if you do cross, like you say. Absolutely spot on, Paul. Cars 6 and 17 had an incident back on lap 2, and there has been a 5-second time penalty given to car 6, which is David Kolotchai, and he's in the pits already, actually, so it doesn't look like that's going to count for much, really. He's already at the bottom of the field in the pit lane, so I'm not quite sure what's going on there. Stimoli is apparently in the pit lane as well. That's signified by the little white square next to the gap in terms of where they are behind the car in front, with the little P in it there. That's what shows you that they are in the pit lane, unfortunately, so not going well for them. Back with the Korma coloured machine of Andrea Miato in second position, making me very hungry right behind what looks like a massive cheese wedge in terms of Yamulo's car. But the pair of them are now starting to gap Romagnoli more and more. To be honest, Paul, at this point of the race, I think Romagnoli will be pretty angry with himself. I mean, he went for that move, and while he was sat behind Yamulo quite safely before, that move is what's made the biggest difference in terms of dropping him back, and he just hasn't been able to stay with the pair of them. Miato is sort of showing him, this is what you should have done, mate, just sit behind it and enjoy yourself. Can't hear Paul for a second there, apologies everybody, but you can see though that the two of them right together for the race lead are all over one another, but not in a way, Paul, that means that they're actually fighting that hard. I really do think that Miato is just following on it.
Yeah, absolutely. What I was saying, a slight technical issue there, was for Michael Romagnoli. I think now he's sort of 0.4 of a second a lap or so away from the two race leaders in terms of pace. it's a bit of a consolidation job now, isn't it? Hold on to that third position, keep an eye on Nikodem Sobchak behind, make sure he doesn't get too close and bring him up into a fight. And if Miato and if Amulo start to fight a little bit harder, maybe he can get into the conversation later on, but Romagnoli will be frustrated, as you say, but content at the least. At the moment in time, it's a relatively comfortable progression through to the grand finale. We're looking at Filippi now, still in 5th position, still holding off Marcin Swiderek. And to me, Jazz, this is the surprise of the race. Marcin Swiderek does not seem to have the pace to get on terms with the cars ahead. I kind of expected him to go like a scolded dog after his dramas in turn 1. But it's a good job from Filippi covering all those bases, giving no opportunity for the Polish driver to find a way past.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not really been a standout performance, unfortunately, by Marcin Swiderek. Car number 2 would have definitely been one of the favourites to be right up there, as he now follows on behind Filippi in the other brown. It's more of a Booner colour that than a Korma, to be honest, but the military grey machine chasing him down doesn't seem to be able to do much. They're bookended as well by this very hot pink car of Sobchak just in front of them, car 21. He's still holding on to that final qualification spot, and then just behind them as well, a driver that we've not really seen much of is Michele Perella, car number 11, another very hot pink machine. There is Michele with the green highlights on the ends of the rear wings, all over the windows and all sorts. So many great shapes on these Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo 2s. They look good no matter what colour they are, I have to say. Some interesting colour combos, it has to be said, Paul, but I'd say we've got a very good looking grid. As you see Michele there, focusing, working hard. Interesting to see a driver actually using really small earbuds instead of a headset, isn't it?
Yeah, that's again the comfort factor, isn't it? Use what you're comfortable and what you know and what you've used many times before, as well as not disturbing everybody else in the house with the sounds of roaring engines. Now, that's a little overtake opportunity that comes to absolutely nothing. So Sobchak in 4th place is starting to come under massive pressure for that final qualification spot, while Filippi had a little look and then fall back in line again. Swiderek is immediately on his tail and looking to try and find a way past. And this is what we've said so many times in this race and so many times this season. Half measure overtakes or feints or looks to the inside will cost you way more than it will gain you. And Filippi's gone from being I'm going to get 4th position to Swiderek's all the way up my inside or behind me and might be taking this 5th away. So it's a real difficult period of the race for the drivers. We're coming to the halfway mark as well, so the car's started to change balance. What you've got underneath you is not the same as what you started the race with. This is going to be fascinating now, and for my money I'd be surprised if it stays the way it is going at this moment in time.
Yeah, I think, to be fair, Swiderek is probably one of those drivers that in the later stages would really know how to handle the car better, but that's only from what we've seen before. You know, the drivers around him, we may not have seen them in as many competitions or events, so they might be even better than Swiderek at that. We might just not know it yet, and that's what's another beautiful level of this championship, is that people can bring out surprises that, you know, you see one driver and you go, oh yeah, that guy's a lead foot, you know, he'll never save fuel, or this guy's, you know, a feather foot and he can really save fuel all the time. That's what they're good at. And someone else will, out of nowhere, outdo them, you know, and go under the radar in doing it, because we're not looking for them doing it. So, yeah, I'm excited to see what the later stages are like with this race. We're just about to get to halfway in just a couple of minutes' time, and still these two at the front, cars 1 and 3, Dario Yamulo and Andrea Miato, are doing, well, an exemplary drive each at the moment. Miato waited for that opportunity to come to him when this man, Romagnoli, eventually dropped down out of 1st place and then made a mistake in 2nd place in trying to overtake Yamulo. And then, since then, Miato's gone. And to be fair, Paul, I'm going to keep my eye on lap times here, but the cars behind Romagnoli, who's obviously in a very laid-back position, they're actually quicker than him by a couple of tenths each. Each of them are as well. Pirelli did an identical lap time to him, but all the guys behind are 2 tenths a lap quicker at the moment, or at least they were last time anyway.
And that's going to start to prey on the mind of Nikodem Sobchak. He'll be well aware of the differential in pace between himself and those around him, especially if that gap starts decreasing or the attention from the cars behind start to become a little bit higher. Michael Romagnoli is under some pressure now in this race. Make no mistake, Nikodem Sobchak is under some pressure. Make no mistake. Filippi, Swiderek and Pirella have absolutely nothing to lose whatsoever, because where they are now is worthless to them. They can only go forwards. The two guys in front can only fall backwards, and Nicola Soro can only exit stage left into the gravel there. We see him spin as well for number 13. That is Kabir, I think it is. Oh, 23, sorry. That is Magnani. Good timing, as we're saying that one. How anything can happen, it usually does. And Nicola Soro has tales of woe from that one.
Yeah, and to be honest, I mean, I hate to sound harsh, but I think Magnani got just desserts there. He just drove through the back of the car in front, and the fact that he got clipped and turned around after that was a bit of karma. As here comes Marcin Sviderek. Suddenly he's turned it on, round the outside into turn 1, over the sleeping policeman though at turn 2, and contact, and he's around, and suddenly, like you say, Paul, anything can happen. It often does, and now it happens to some of the best of them as well. Marcin Sviderek is around, has to recover and get going again. I mean, it looks and sounds fantastic as he does so, and a shake of the head from Marcin, understandably, but, well, he tried to just keep as much pace as he could up there, and it just came crashing down very quickly. Look at that, already back on the attack, but he's driving angry now. He doesn't want to do that. He needs to just take a few corners to get his head back in the game. But that's how simple and how fickle it can be, Paul. It just goes your way sometimes and doesn't others. Goes for a great move, and it was working, and then all of a sudden, just that tiny little tap, forced a little bit wide, game over.
And that's racing intelligence for Sviderek there. He went for the move, realised he got pushed onto the sleeping policeman. Instead of conceding, kept the foot in and tried to make the move work. And that is the key to his undoing. Michele Pirella now that we're looking at, car number 11 on the outside. Does it get the deal done? Can't quite close in because there's a Lamborghini Super Trofeo Hurricane Evo 2 alongside him. Has to concede, goes to see the sleeping policeman on the outside of the circuit, drops back down into 6th position. So Pirella not quite enough to get the deal done. And this, for Nikola Sobchak, is dynamite, because this gives him breathing space that he so desperately needs in 4th place, while these all squabble away for what are, in effect, the minor places.
Yeah, definitely. He'll be over the moon with that. Absolutely over the moon with that, Will Sobchak. And that's the perfect thing, like you say. That's exactly what he needed. Because now these guys have lost a bunch of positions and a bunch of time to him as well. 3.5 seconds, the main difference. As we look here at 2nd place, Andrea Miato continuing to follow Dario Yamulo. And as we mentioned before, he doesn't need to do anything now other than follow on and just hold that 2nd position. Just needs to keep it nice and tidy. I believe actually we weren't looking at Miato there, sorry. I think we were looking at the number 11 car of Michele Pirella actually. And he is now only 0.6 of a second behind Filippi. But like I mentioned, mate, they're 3.5 seconds back now. That's quite a bit of daylight, to say the least. And I think as well, Roman Yoli will be pretty pleased about that if he knows about it, if he pays attention to the timing like that. Because not only has he got a bit of time to Sobchak, but Sobchak's not bringing the rabble with him, is he? He's not bringing a pack of hornets to all try and overtake at once. If Sobchak does catch him, it's only going to be 1 position lost, and he can still manage it from there if he chooses to concede.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So that's worked out really nicely for our top 4 drivers. 3.3 seconds now is Filippi in arrears as Andrea Miato still continues to track Dario Yamulo, still shows signs that he's interested in taking away the race lead with 28 minutes left on the clock. And Miato, the best play now, Chaz, isn't it, is for Miato to mirror like for like as much as possible, put Yamulo under pressure, make it so Dario is the one that makes the mistake and gives away the free pass. You don't want to be going on the brakes, you don't want to be trying to squabble it out through the corner. If you're Miato, you just want a mistake from your rival and then take the position, and that's the name of the game surely at this stage.
Yeah, absolutely. You just need to keep your head above water in this sort of situation and make sure that you get yourself in those qualifying positions. And if you're not there, like I said before, it's all about maintaining a bit of pride and a bit of honour in terms of what you're doing. You know, if you can still pick off a few places, it's down to bragging rights for the rest of the campaign. It's down to bragging rights even in future when you race against these drivers again, because no doubt with the level that these guys are at, they will cross paths again in the future. Great battle at the front here. It's not much of a battle, it must be said, but there's still a lot of mind games going on here, because all the while that Yamulo is still leading this race and he's got Miato behind him, Miato is filling his mirrors and putting pressure on. He might not be meaning to, but Dario will see him behind him, and it is just a constant reminder, you're not getting away with this one easily, Dario. You are not completely over the horizon yet. You still have a lot of work to do left in this race. 26 minutes and 40 seconds left to go. And I tell you, that is not going to tick down very, very quickly for our race leader, is it?
Not at all. So the high-speed game of chess continues at the front of the field. Who will be the first to blink? Will it be Dario Amulo, currently leading this race as he has done from the very early stages? Will Andrea Miato have an opportunity to recover from that lost pole position courtesy of a slightly sluggish start and run down into T1? And can Michael Romagnoli secure that third position now with a bit of a safety net between himself and Nikodem Sobchak in fourth? Further down the running order, Marco Garda that we're looking at here in car number 20, position number 11. That 11 not quite in striking distance and benefiting from the 5-second time penalty for Chile just further afield, so Shirada needs to put his foot down and get some more speed out of that car as he continues in this little squabble. Race control, an incident between cars 23 and 10 on lap 16, a drive-through penalty for car number 23, and that is Magnani, who's in pit lane. I don't think he's in pit lane serving the penalties, Jazz. I think he's in pit lane to say my day is done.
Yeah, absolutely. He's showing a couple of laps behind the competitors in front of him now, so I'm afraid we've lost a couple already as this race has gone on. Magnani, Soro, Milan de Klippel, Rosario Stimoli and David Kolotchai both out, and Luca Lomonaco as well. Quite a few of them have dropped off under the radar, admittedly. Apologies to those drivers that we haven't quite noticed disappearing, but there's been so much going on all through the field that we never really know where to look in these events. It's so exciting. We look back now from Marco Schade, and even if you do pronounce his name Shade, he's certainly got Marcin Sviderek as his shadow right now, forming said shade. Marcin in, well, I was going to say the very menacing looking machine, but they all are, aren't they? It's just the body language of that car right now. If you are Marco and you know what Marcin's been through up to this point, then flipping heck, you'd be a bit worried, wouldn't you? Because you'll know that he's driving a bit angry and he's going to be a bit more fired up as well. Marco's got the sweatband on, as you can see there, to make sure that he doesn't overdo it. But he's certainly looking a bit more relaxed than some of our other drivers. Interesting to see he's got another monitor to his left-hand side there, Paul, but doesn't have the actual sim stretched across all three. That's very intriguing. There seems to be some sort of mirror or something on there, but yeah, it doesn't look like he's actually got the sim across all three screens, which is usually what you'd see on triples.
Yeah, it really is. It's very interesting to see how that one works, but it's working for him because Marco Schade, as you say, looks very relaxed behind the wheel. He's not taking big stabs at steering input. He looks concentrated, yet still quite calm as he's fending off Michael Romagnoli behind. And credit as well, sorry, not Michael Romagnoli, Marcin Swiderek. Credit to Marcin for staying in the race and continuing to push. Now he knows that, in effect, his qualification chances are over and done with. So Marcin still seeing if he can pick up some positions, have himself a little bit of fun, make himself known to those around him, should that be advantageous. Further down the championship charge at Spa-Francorchamps that we do next weekend. But so far, there is Swiderek, looks to the inside, but Schade has the line covered. And this is good driving. First time I've seen Marco Schade in action, as far as my memory goes. I'm impressed with what I see. Very considered driving, it is to be fair to be said.
Yeah, unfazed. Completely unfazed, isn't he, by the look of it? The body language of the car doesn't show desperate defending or moving around on the brakes, or that he's being unsettled by what's going on behind him with Marcin Sviderek trying to make a move. Marcin's one of the finest in the business. A lot of us know his name, and right now Schade is doing everything right, in my opinion. Car number 20 as well, so he's by far not the highest seed here tonight. But he's just outside of the top 10, and said top 10 is only about 7/10 of a second in front of him as well, with Grillo there. So yeah, great performance by Marco. It may not be, one of the ones that you look at on the results sheet at the end of the night with going through into the next part of the event, into the grand final, but still, you've got to take these events and do them all one at a time and see what you can get out of it. We don't always see result sheets, especially in what we do, Paul. When you're doing your research and looking through notes and stuff, you can look at a result sheet that won't tell the full story of a race. It's normally 50% of the time as well. So yeah, Marco needs to remember that tonight when he looks back and hold his head up high with what he's done so far. He's doing great.
Yep, completely agree with that one. We saw Pakazoko there for a few moments, but let's pay some attention to this squabble for 5th and 6th position. Michele Pirella in the bright coloured machine in 6th place, trying one way and then the other to find a way past Filippi. Not quite enough racing room yet. Looks to the inside, will dive no doubt to the inside on the brakes, doesn't have enough overlap, slots back into position. Car number 11 stays in 6th place on the racetrack, but Filippi is feeling the pressure. These two are squabbling. That's allowing Magnani slowly but surely to start to close into this fight as well. But Michele Pirella currently in 6th. I've got a feeling it's not going to stay that way for much longer, Chaz, because these two seem primed for a ding-dong in the last 21 minutes and change.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that they are certainly winding themselves up for this, aren't they? Every time that he gets closer and closer here and then falls away again, it's going to be just sort of punching the air a bit, theoretically anyway, and just thinking, right, I need to get him next time, I need to try. So he's going to try harder every time, and Filippi is going to try harder to defend it each time as well. It's just going to get more and more amplified as it goes on. It's a rising curve, so to speak, and still our race leaders, I mean, it's a similar sort of situation to what we saw last time out with Marco Lomi at Monza, just disappearing up the road and keeping it nice, cool, calm and collected, except this Lamborghini Huracan has got 8 wheels instead of 4, because these two are really glued together at the hip. It's fantastic to watch.
And it is great driving, because anybody who's not raced competitively, real or virtual, at a reasonably high level, these two guys, they're not holding anything back. They're racing the absolute limit that they and the car are capable, separated by next to nothing in terms of distance. So the trust and the faith they have in each other and the limit that they're reaching, corner after corner, lap after lap, is incredibly impressive as Martin Svidorek looks to the inside again, but doesn't have enough of an overlap. So really big credit to our two race leaders, keeping things spicy and driving at the absolute limit, as Andrea Miato now is about as close as we've seen him at any stage in the last 5 or 6 laps. In fact, gets a good launch off of the corner, not good enough to place the car down the inside. But Dario Amulo now will have eyes like dustbin lids looking at the rear view mirror, because Andrea Miato is on a charge and he's got all the hallmarks of somebody that's going to launch a move in a next couple of corners. In fact, Chaz, I wouldn't be surprised if the hairpin is where he strikes next.
Yeah, we'll have to see. He's trying to take a wide line look to take a late apex down at turn 10 to get the run off the corner. You don't really want to try doing it into there that much, because it's a bit of a check-up point of the circuit. It's a bit of a choke point, so to speak. So really, you want to just set yourself up for a good run out of the final corner, get the slipstream down the start, finish straight, and have it nice and easy down in towards turn 1, as long as you can get it done on the brakes. So watch, he'll take a later apex there. He'll try and wind himself up a bit. Yamulo's got a really good run, actually. And to be fair, Miato's going to have the slipstream anyway, which is going to still glue them together. Last time round, Yamulo actually moved over to the right-hand side of the circuit. He's still doing it a little bit. Not really sure that he needs to do that at this point, because I don't think Miato's going to try anything from that sort of distance. So, if anything, I think Yamulo would have known by now if Miato really wanted to get through, because he would have made it a lot more apparent and a lot more urgent. So, Yamulo there, maybe just trying to break, I should say, the slipstream a tiny bit. I think in the long run, it's not going to make much of a difference. He may as well just stay in a straight line and see what Miato does for a lap or so. That's what I'd do anyway, but probably a good reason that he's not doing that, because he's a pro and I'm definitely not when it comes to being behind the wheel.
Yeah, Belton Racers defending from Dario Amulo. Scan to win. You'll see the QR code on your screen. If you're watching this live at home, scan that code, register. You could be in with a chance of winning a 300 or a 150 euro voucher to spend at the Lamborghini store. And of course, the more entries that you submit, the more entries will go to the grand finale prize, which is a VIP experience and tour of all things Lamborghini. So well worth the time to do this one, as we look again at Andrea Miato. Great camera angle, looking down at the steering wheel he's got on his rig, looking down at the concentration of the driver, a little bit of a flexing of the hand, try and relieve some of the tension. That just goes to show how hard he's focused and concentrated in this second position. Dario Amulo using the racing line. He doesn't need to defend in this Mickey Mouse final section of the lap, but this is where The pressure starts to build now. Will he spot his braking zone? Yes, he does. Nice and tidy, nice and neat through the chicane. Andrea Miato will be looking for opportunities to get the launch here, Chaz, because this is where overtakes are won. Often people think it's on the brakes. Actually, usually, it's the preceding corner and the launch off the corner that gives you the opportunity to get alongside. That's where the overtake is done, not in the moment of the turn itself.
Yeah, absolutely. It still amazes me when you watch a lot of GT racing and touring car racing, as the two of us tend to commentate on, because you'll see drivers setting up a move and you'll see people going deep into a corner defending the entrance to it, and you think, well, he's not going to go for it there. The obvious thing is that he's going to swing it back on the exit. How do you not know this by now? Like, as a commentator, we'll see it coming and we'll go, look, he's going to do this, he's going to do that. And then you'll see it happen and you'll think, why didn't the other driver know that was going to happen? But obviously it may be a different story from the outside of things, hence where we are and where these drivers are. But right now, I'd say that Miato just needs to get that solid run off one corner. It's just going to take, I think, a mistake from Yamulo, because he's been so consistent so far. But as soon as there's that chink in the armour, that's when the difference is going to be made. Right now, though, Marcin Swiderek's hoping he can make a difference, and that is a difference in getting past Schade in front of him. And you can see the car, and he is all over the place trying to get by. He's really wrangling that thing around, but still not able to do anything. It looks fantastic, it sounds fantastic. Marcin certainly looks like he's working hard as well, but he's just not able to make that difference at this moment in time. And again, coming back to how well Schade is doing, it's a great drive by him. It's just a shame that it doesn't amount to either of them getting through or getting points or anything like that towards an overall end goal, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And if you wouldn't want to be Marcin Swiderek's cat at the end of this one, because it's hardly likely it will get kicked across the room. Such will be his frustration. And just for clarity, that's a saying that we have in England. It's not something I expect to actually happen. Yeah. But Swiderek in 12th position now, gets a good opportunity on Schade. Schade runs a little bit deep. Swiderek's got the outside line. Look how close these two cars are together without making contact, but Swiderek can't quite get the deal done. And it is more and more frustration. 12th position, we're enjoying it. And if this was a online race in a lobby, Marcin would no doubt come out of it saying, great race, thoroughly enjoyed it. But he is going to be furious come the checkered flag that could have been so much more today.
You mentioned this theoretical cat. I think if it was going to get kicked, it'd rather that than be thrown. I think he'd throw it very, very far with arms like that, to be fair.
He's a big boy, isn't he? He's certainly a strong lad.
He's a broad lad, isn't he? Bless him. But honestly, you could see the frustration as he was coming down the start-finish straight there. He's really not having this race go his own way. Here's Matteo Topa in car 22. Gorgeous blue machine that was unfortunately around backwards in the gravel earlier on in the race. He's just got past car number 17, which is Luca Pacazocco. And Luigi Pacazocco. My apologies, Luigi. Matteo there, as you can see, racing from the bottom of a cave in the distance. But still, he's got the very bright and wonderful scenery here at Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya lighting up his screen as Swiderek finally finds his way past Schade. And I mean, it's taken him a long time to do it. As here is the change for the lead potentially. Look, a switch back on the way from Andrea Miato. Doesn't get the run off the corner though, Paul. The battles are now starting to intensify a bit. We're into the last 14 minutes, let alone 15 minutes. And I think Andrea wants to go for overall glory here. He's sat behind that bright yellow car for that long. He's thinking, right, fed up with this now. The yellow bits of my screen are going to start burning into my retinas in a minute. I need to get this Korma coloured car in front.
Yep, couldn't agree more. And what was interesting, we only saw the end of that one rather than the actual setup. But what I'm going to extrapolate from that is Andrea Miato wants the pass, but doesn't want to physically make the overtake. He put his car in such a position that he's trying to get Dario Mulo to run wide, to make a mistake, to miss an apex, to snatch a break, and then take the free position away from him, which is very, very clever. Miato wants the move, wants to put the pressure on, but doesn't want to take the associated risk that may end up in the gravel, or even worse, in the barrier, should the two not play tango together quite nicely. So good driving from Andrea Miato. How long that patience, how long that sense will last before he starts throwing the car up the inside, we'll find out. But from both of these drivers, neither are making significant mistakes, neither are making big pressure incidents. It's got to be good driving from these two, and this is the kind of quality that we expect to see from drivers at this level.
Yeah, definitely, and it's what the people at Lamborghini will be watching for. This is why they put this competition on in this sort of format, to see the drivers racing together. And all of you that see these drivers racing together as well, that are watching along at home, can scan that QR code on the right-hand side of your screen. There is registration links as well within the YouTube chat that you can follow, and you could win yourself either a €300 or €150 gift card to spend at the Lamborghini store. Look at these attacks now by Andrea Miato. Can you believe you can win prizes while watching racing like this? What a fantastic Thursday night. But these pair have been exemplary at the minute. They've both had different dealings with Romagnoli as the race has gone on. Both of them have come away with it and lead this pack together, I'd say. I mean, Yamulo's obviously been the one that's been leading the race realistically and factually, but I think Miato's been leading this race mentally, to be fair to you. He's just been following that yellow car in front, and it's been a hell of a performance. I really, honestly, Paul, I hope I don't jinx it by saying this, but I've started now, so I'm going to finish. I really hope this doesn't end in tears with these two. They don't need to do this. It's great entertainment. It's like a Formula One battle in the early 2010s, let's say, between two different coloured cars, let's just say that. You just don't need to do it though, boys, because you're both in a very good position. Just please don't ruin it.
Yeah, very nervy times at the front of the field, and you can feel that nervousness on board here with Andrea Miato now. He's not really wanting to get too far alongside. He's just applying the pressure, runs out of racetrack, keeps his foot in though. This is the most aggressive we've seen. A little kiss for good measure as well. Miato drops back in a second position. Just a little hip and shoulder, just to let you know I'm alongside. Nothing too aggressive. And now we look to the inside, trying to force a lock brake. Trying to force a mistake. Dario Amulo has taken his brave pills. He's not concerned. He has mentally put some gaffer tape over his rear view mirror. Doesn't want to look at what Andrea Miato's doing. Just eyes forward, concentrate on the track ahead. But now, 10.5 minutes to go. This is the pressure zone for these two drivers. This is the period of the race where you are going to make or break your result, as behind Michael Romagnoli under similar amounts of pressure, the light flashing, Nikodem Sobchak.
Yeah, Sobchak certainly filling those mirrors now and saying, look mate, I'm here, I'm finally here, and I'm going to annoy you until you let me by. But Romagnoli's been running a decent race. Sobchak has done great as well since leaving that pack behind him. He's just continued to fly forwards as well. Speaking literally just again about our race leader for a moment, Paul, I really hope, literally for his sake, he's got some sort of keybind or some keyboard shortcut to turn the virtual mirror off, which shows you the car behind. You can turn them off in a Assetto Corsa Competizione, the simulator which we use for this fantastic series, and he will want to turn that off as soon as possible. But it's been great fun to watch, and now we've got these two duos. Very different situation to what we had at Monza though, because it seemed a little bit predetermined when we got into the last sort of 20 minutes at Monza, because the guys were so spaced out. But right now, this is the perfect scenario really. I think the only thing that would make it better is Guglielmo Filippi in 5th place being right behind Romagnoli and Sobchak as well, to really spice it up, because one of them would not be going through at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got two battle packs now in the final few minutes of this race. First and second, and third and fourth. Not one of these drivers needs to make a move because they're all going through if things stay as they are. But you tell that to the likes of Michael Romagnoli. You tell that to the likes of Sobchak. As we see, is this a change of race lead? We go into full stream now. We've got Andrea Miato to the inside. We've got Andrea Miato to the front of the field. And Mulo, after a fantastic defence of the race lead, just about loses out. The question is, does he have an answer to Andrea Miato?
Well, this is the thing now, Paul, isn't it? Because before we saw Yamulo behind Romagnoli, we saw how aggressive he was, how eager he was to get to the back of the car, and there was a bit of contact here and there. I'm not sure whether he'll be even more fired up at this part of the race, or whether he'll be more likely to succeed or concede, I should say. Miato, though, he's on the complete flip side of things. Now he's got in front. Are we going to see his true pace, and is he in a rhythm with how this car is feeling later on in the race to just push it forward and really not just punch that hole in the air from Yamulo, but leave him for dust, because he's got a great run already out of the last couple of corners, and he's starting to pull car length over car length in front. Great stuff already by Andrea Miato. I mean, in the early stages, Paul, it looked like he was going to be the one in the background here and the sort of supporting act to these two at the front, but right now he's become the main event. He's brilliant.
Yeah, fabulous stuff. The virtual audience are on their feet in the grandstands because that is braver than he needed to be. Yeah. And that has paid off massively for Miato to take this race lead. I must admit it's because I'm in the Fanatec arena and using equipment that I'm not used to using. It's it's suboptimal, the pictures that are coming through to me to commentate on, so I didn't quite see exactly what happened and if it was clean and how aggressive that pass was. But just to be in the region to make a move and then to pull the trigger when it was needed, big bravery from Andrew Miato. So I raise my hat to you, sir. That is a very nice bit of driving to take that race lead. And Nikodem Sobchak, he thinks fourth's good, he thinks third's even better. And what would you do, Chaz? What are you going to do in this situation? Just under 7 minutes to go, you're already through, you've got night and day to the car behind you. Do you go for it?
Another reason that I'm not a professional racing driver or sim racer, Paul, is the fact that I'm too soft. I would sit there. I would honestly just sit there right now, because at the end of the day, Nikodem's got a car in front of him that he knows is quick, he knows can do the job himself if he really needs to, but at the same time he's getting free slipstream here and he can just coast behind. I say that though, and that's without realising that Guglielmo Filippi behind them is now closing in bit by bit. He was 0.6 of a second quicker than both of them on that previous lap. It was almost identical times by Romagnoli and Sobchak, and 0.6 of a second per lap would mean that it would take, what, 4 more laps for Filippi to get there. As, oh no, Marcin Swiderek is around, and where on earth is that? Is that on the exit of turn 4? Not quite sure where that is. He's gone back to the pits now either way. That's a massive, massive shame for Marcin Swiderek. Also means as well that he's not got many chances left to get this job done, does it, Paul, with the final events coming up in a week's time?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There's the final event. Qualifying's ongoing as we speak and will be running until the 3rd of July at 10 a.m. CEST. So Marcin will be quick to get on there instead of time in the top 24, and you at home can also do the same. If you're not fancying your chances behind the wheel, do fancy your chances of winning a prize by scanning that code on your screen. Have an opportunity to win €150 or a 300 euro voucher to spend at the Lamborghini store online. So go do that one, and if you fancy joining these boys and girls on the Lamborghini, the Real Race Super Trofeo Esports Series, get into ACC, go to the special event and see if you can set a top 24 time. Here's Marcin Swiderek now, down the inside, telegraphs it nice and early. The door will no doubt close. No, not quite. They run side by side. Oh dear. And then a little rear quarter slice around, and that is all she sang for Marcin Swiderek.
Yeah, completely uncalled for, I have to say, from Jacopo Grillo, unless he was correcting the car, but I don't think he had any reason to save it from standing out. I just think it was unnecessary retaliation there. He didn't need to do that at all. And I mean, it's like when a footballer dives. Why do you do it? You know how many people are watching you. There's no need to do that. And obviously that could be a check against you in a competition like this, Paul. They're obviously fighting to race for the Lamborghini esports team, you know, top of the pile. You wouldn't want to be showing them that you've got that in you in an event like this, because that doesn't look good against your professional resume, let's say. That's not what we want to see as spectators, as fans of the sport as well, but also as potential employers, let's say. I don't think that I'd want to be showing a team that, to be honest with you. So hopefully Grillo can look at what he's done there and well, figure it out and obviously come back better for the next one.
Yeah, what we do want to see, though, is Mattia Topper and Josh Hislop fighting tooth and nail for 11th and 12th position. Hislop is the man with the advantage at this moment in time, but Matteo not far behind and seemingly a little quicker in the second sector, but that's not really where the best overtaking opportunities exist here on the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalonia. And that's another thing as a driver that's so frustrating, Chaz, isn't it? When you're quick, but in all the wrong places.
Yeah.
You've got the advantage over the guy in front, but not where it matters or where it's useful.
Yeah, in corners where you can close right up, but all you've got to do and all you can do is just sit right behind them. And you can't drive through them to make the place. I mean, we saw some drivers driving through each other earlier on, but that was only a one-off, really. But Nikodem Sobchak now has to worry about this driver, Guglielmo Filippi, car number 7, position number 5. He's gained another second on them since we last checked. He was 0.4 of a second quicker on that previous lap. There's 3 minutes to go in this race. It's 1 minute 48 seconds for our leaders in terms of a lap. So roughly 2 laps, you're looking at what? 3 minutes and 40 seconds, if my maths is probably wrong. But still, I don't think that it's going to be enough for Filippi unless there's a battle in front, and Romagnoli and Sobchak have opened up a gap between each other just that tiny bit over the last lap or so. So I think Guglielmo will hope for, obviously, a mistake from either of them, Not sure if it's going to come yet. We'll have to wait and see. 2.5 minutes to go.
Yeah, it's very much out of Felipe's hands now, I think, in terms of influencing the ongoing race result. It's down to other people to get involved in drama. But look at Andrea Miato. He took that race lead, yes. I think Dario Amulo has maybe decided to settle for second now and dialed back the risk. But 2.5 seconds, or well, 2.2 seconds to the good. Miato got pole position, worked his way methodically up the order when the opportunity presented itself, and now the pin has been pulled. Look at the lap time of the Italian driver, and this is not for our benefit, not for the field's benefit today. This is for him to say, just take a note of this, boys, because when we come to the Nürburgring, I'm a man to watch out for, and that will not go unnoticed by the 8 drivers that have already qualified for this competition.
No, absolutely not. They'll be watching as well and keeping their eye on the competition that are coming through the ranks and taking part in these races. And I mean, as a professional driver, you'd be able to watch this and know how the car feels at certain points of a race, know how you feel, how the equipment is, and you'll be able to pick up what drivers are doing in certain elements of the race and know where people are strong just by watching. And that's one of the beautiful things about drivers at this level. They're so in tune with the information, the way that the simulator works, the way that the car behaves, the tyres, the way that the fuel feels later on, how the track responds to it as well. And obviously how you feel as a driver at certain points and what you need to make in terms of a change later on. So there's so much to think about, but because these guys have done it for themselves, I suppose that's one of, again, the beautiful things of the accessibility of sim racing. You're not just watching GT3 cars go round and thinking, that's cool, I wonder how that feels, and having to compare it from the sim to a real life event. You are able to go and do this for yourself and see exactly how it feels in the same software and similar equipment in terms of a sim racing rig. So knowing that you can watch it while knowing you've done it for yourself, yeah, I think that the guys outside of the sim right now watching this will be taking a lot from it, I have to say. I know I've elaborated a bit too much on that. We're on the final lap of the race anyway, I know that much, Paul.
No, but it's a very good point, though, that you make. Every time that you watch in these cars, it's a learning experience for all concerned, including those that have already qualified. But they'll be getting the measure of the drivers. They will be getting the measure who's good at the start, at the end of the race, who can stoke up pressure, who's relentless. And the one that's come away, quite frankly, with flying colours, is this man, Andrea Miato. We're looking picture of him on board and off board as well, as he serenely drives his way through the final few corners to take what has been a very impressive race victory, assuming he makes it to the flag, of course.
Serene is actually the perfect word, Paul. It really has been, because even though he's had a couple of battles here and there and had to work hard to get back up to the front, he's done it flawlessly. There has not been any shakiness, any mistakes, any real sign that he was struggling at any point. You know, he sat behind Di Mulo for so long, and as soon as he's gone past him, he's just gapped him. I mean, he was half a second quicker than him last time round. He might have been saving the tyres. He didn't need to save fuel or anything, but it's just been an exemplary performance. And this is exactly what Lamborghini are looking for, and the reason this competition is on.
Yep, he's battled when he's wanted to battle on his own terms. He's let the race come to him and commanded it fantastically. As we come through now, the final corner on the final lap for the final time, the lights will be flashing, the checkered flag will be waving, and Andrea Miato becomes the latest winner of Lamborghini The Real Race Super Trofeo Esports Series, and alongside rivals Dario Amulo in second position, Michael Romagnoli in third, and Nikodem Sobchak in fourth, secure their place in the grand final at the Nürburgring later on this year, with 4 commanding performances at the front of the field in what has been an incredibly tightly packed race throughout.
Fantastic drive by all of them. Really, really well done. Yumulo may not be pleased with the fact that he was second and obviously lost out to Miato at the end, but still, I think he'll be happy with the fact that he's through. I mean, it's going to be a fantastic event to see him come through and obviously race at the Nürburgring with us later on in the competition. But that was an awesome race once again. We knew that the circuit would provide great racing, and I have to say, I don't want to put a downer on it, that was so much cleaner than Monza as well. There was obviously that weird little moment with Grillo, but overall I think that was excellent. Really clean racing where it was, and very strategic as well. We could see what the drivers were thinking and doing there. I loved that. Yeah,
really intelligent, I think is probably the best word to pick out. Intelligent racing from everybody. Bravery. But Chaz, I want to talk to you about our race winner, Andrea Miato, while we're waiting for him to come for an interview. I said it as we were closing through the last few corners. And I think it's a good point, so I'll say it again. He had fights on his terms when he wanted the fight. He wasn't reactive to the race around him. He brought the performance when he needed to, and that's really impressive to see, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. You do see drivers that they'll push a little bit too hard at certain points of the race because they feel like they have to prove a point there. But he just took what was coming to him, and then he just did what he could do. He knew that it was a long race, and you could see that in the way that the car was moving and the way that he was throwing it as well. He wasn't really shoving it right behind Yamulo from the get-go. He made sure that they could work together, and he notified himself of what pace they had. He got used to sitting behind Yamulo and then moved forward with him. And once they'd got that gap, that gave him the comfort then to start picking away and start filling the mirrors and saying, look, I can outdo you here. And obviously in the way that he got the move done, he then had the confidence to just disappear over the horizon, and what a great drive it was. No disrespect to Yamulo, though, because again, he did an awesome job in leading it and holding him back for as long as he did.
And I think, again, when we do the grand final at the Nürburgring on site, it's going to be 2 races and points, and that kind of intelligence is a really big thing. But by the way, I believe now we have got our race winner ready to have a little chat to us. So let us welcome our race winner, Andrea Miato. What a dominant performance.
Hello.
Andrea, congratulations. How are you feeling?
Thanks. Really good. Yeah. Apart from the start, really bad start. I lost it was the 2 positions. But yeah, I had the pace. The car was really good. So thanks also to my engineer, Marco Macri, for the really good job. Yeah, I'm really happy. I don't know what to say.
Yeah. So talk to me about your strategy. Chaz and I were saying during the race, you allowed the race to come to you. You held back a little bit in 3rd position while our front 2 drivers squabbled, and then took the chances when they came. How difficult was it for you to keep the temperament and keep the pace and not get involved in messy maneuvers that lost time and positions?
Well, I knew that the goal of this race was the top 4, but also it was to not destroy the tire, because this car really have a problem with the tire consumption. So I tried to stay behind the fight for the first position, so Yamulo and Romagnoli. And when I had the chance to take the first position, I took it. So,
final question from me, because I don't know if you can hear it, but there's a lot of loud GT cars going around, and I'm struggling to hear much of what you're saying. So my apologies for that one. From your point of view now, you've got your ticket to come to the grand final at the Nürburgring on site. What are you going to do between now and then to prepare yourself in the best way possible to have a chance at overall victory?
Yeah, I will do everything to win. I had also other race like SRO, sprint, and endurance, but I will do everything I can for win. So see you on Nürburgring, and hope for the best position I can take.
Well, Andrea, a superb performance. Thoroughly enjoyed watching you, especially the overtake at the end. Congratulations. Go and have a good celebration, and well done on the victory and the qualification.
Thanks, guys.
Lovely stuff. Absolutely lovely stuff.
That was fantastic stuff. I can't hear a word now because these cars are really loud behind us, but just how calm he was, Chaz. You have one. Yeah, great.
Well, it reflects his race, doesn't it? That's the thing, it was the same body language with the car all the way through. It reflected exactly how the actual interview went as well. It was 1-to-1, really 1-to-1. And to be fair, Paul, we use the same headset. It actually shows you how good these headsets are, because we can't hear those cars in the background. I honestly just thought there was somebody in the room, maybe just outside or behind the camera, that was just talking away, because it sounded like it was cutting in and out so much. Anyway, we're going to have a quick interview now with our second place finisher, Dario Yamulo. and he's going to pop into the commentary box with us. Dario, welcome to the commentary box, my friend. You must be pretty pleased with that. It was a really, really strong race at the front of the field there. That was hard work by the look of it.
Yeah. Do you hear me?
Yeah, we've got you. I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, it was a pretty good race, I think. I mean, the start was good, but I knew that the tires was like a big problem, especially in the long way, because I didn't have much time to train a lot to prepare a good setup, even because tomorrow morning I have to fly to go to Spa for the Sim Pro. So I am sure that we will see you there. But yeah, it was a difficult race. Congrats to Miato for the actual race pace, because in the last laps he still have tires. I don't know how, because I checked my tires and in the rear left there was literally zero tire wear. So maybe I had the wrong setup. But yeah, 1 hour it's different.
Well, I was gonna say, the confidence it must give you to know that you didn't have the perfect setup tonight, but you were still able to be right up there at the front of the field, near the front. It must make you feel good about the live event that's going to take place at the Nürburgring.
Yeah, it will be very different anyway, because we're not at home, we're in LAN, different way, different setup, different everything, and you just have to adapt. It's kind of different. Maybe there is a little bit more pressure, when in LAN, people watching you, maybe you're not feeling right, but yeah, it will be fun. It will be also fun because I had like 2 races with 2 different cars, because I actually have the Sim Pro race the day before. Maybe it's an advantage because I use, I think, the same setup. I mean, the rig. Maybe not, because preparing to race and with 2 different cars, it's not optimal. But yeah, we will try to do our best.
Well, that's one of the most amazing things about you real top-level sim racers, is the fact that you can go from one car to the next and still be quick in both. So hats off to you, mate. Obviously, it's going to be very exciting to see you at the Nürburgring as well, but still, before now and then, or between now and then, is there anything else that you can do as a person to prepare for such an event?
Yeah, for sure, a better race setup. Not really, just practice, because the car is it's kind of different than a GT3. There's a lot less downforce that doesn't help you with the tires. Barcelona I think it's pretty heavy with tires. Maybe Nürburgring is gonna be like better, but I don't know. Let's see.
Well, we certainly look forward to it, Dario. Thanks very much for joining us, and congratulations on getting it through to the Nürburgring. Cheers. There you go, Paul. Dario then finishing in second place. And 2 very deserving drivers that have gone through, not to forget as well, Romagnoli and Sobchak, that have joined them, and we'll be seeing them in person at the Nürburgring in what's only going to be a couple of weeks' time. I checked my calendar yesterday, and I can't believe how quickly that's going to come around, because it's only a few weeks away.
What keeps the pressure on for this championship, isn't it? It's race qualifying. Make a small mistake, you've got very little time to mentally reset yourself. And thankfully, the loud cars are finished behind me now, so I can actually hear what you're saying to me, which is always a win. And pretty much in time for us to say goodbye to everybody. So, as usual, big shout out to everybody that's watched online, on YouTube, on social media. It's an absolute pleasure to have you with us. Don't forget to click on that code and get yourself registered for a chance to win prizes and to go into the pot for the end of the season, where you may get a big VIP experience. Thank you to AK Esports and to Assetto Corsa Competizione. Thank you to you, Chaz Draycott, for being with me. Thank you to all the broadcast team, to all the race direction, to everybody involved in bringing this. And we're on again on the 6th of July at Spa-Francorchamps. So let's try it 2 times in a row. Let's see if we can get it right. So from both Chaz and I, thank you very much. And in. Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Oh, nearly.